All right. Well, today I wanted to talk about why I choose to live a minimalist lifestyle. So, living in the US, consumerism is what runs the economy. We must consume as people for the economy to run efficiently. The keeping up with the Joneses mentality is also very prevalent here in the US. All the commercials and advertisements drive home the idea that a nicer house, nicer car, nicer clothes, and more jewelry will make you successful and happy at the end. And that can be true to an extent, but a lot of it is garbage. Some of the wealthiest people aren't very flashy and tend to live somewhat minimalistic. A lot of the car commercials will show a guy buying like a nice truck or a nice Porsche. I always see these like Super Bowl commercials, and there will be like a hot chick that will be like standing in the background, like smiling. It's actually kind of funny when you know how marketing works, but it definitely has an effect on people. You can imagine like a bunch of middle-aged dudes like sitting in front of the TV during the Super Bowl, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go out and buy a Ford F-150, and that will get me that hot chick." So they go out and they buy that Ford F-150, and then it doesn't even help them. And the consumerism in the US, it'll grip you up faster than Brittany Renner gripped up PJ Washington by the balls, and it won't let you go, and you really have to be mindful about it. And I've been someone who has overconsumed on certain things in the past, but has also been very frugal about other things. And as I get older, a lot of material things don't actually make you any happier or provide you any sort of value in your life outside of temporary happiness and dopamine. I really try to prioritize spending money on things that will improve my life in some way, whether it's from like an experience standpoint, such as traveling to a new place, whether it's Europe, a national park out west, or just an experience that I'm going to look back on when I'm older. I also try to spend some money on my day-to-day living environment. I find that like I'll spend money on my apartment. Like I'm someone I prefer to have an apartment that has good lighting, has central air, but it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Like as long as it gives me a few of those luxuries, that's good with me. And I also try to prioritize spending money, on my appearance and on my health as well. And, part of that is making sacrifices in other areas, such as, I bought an older car. I have a Toyota and, driving into the ground, not eating out as much and, cooking foods that I enjoy at home. I know there's this thing about like, I don't know if it was like Andrew Tate. I think he was the one who kind of started this, but he was always, kind of making jokes about like, "Oh, you're cooking at home, But like, to be honest, like I cook eggs, I make steak, chicken, salmon, like the foods I make, I can whip up pretty quickly. And like, I'd rather eat like whole foods that I know are healthy and like I know what ingredients I'm putting into it than like going out to eat and going out to like steak dinners every single night. Like that's just me. And, I'll pack lunch when I have to go into the office and, I try to say no to things that I don't feel will enrich my life. And I'm not saying that you need to eat every meal at home, and that's not to say never go out to eat, but I don't know, just try to be strategic about when you go out to eat, because that adds up. That money adds up so quickly. I'll typically eat out once a week by myself, once with my girlfriend on the weekend, and then maybe with a group of friends. But the majority of the time, like I cook food that I like at home, and like that's saved me a tremendous amount of money over the years. And that's, allowed me to, save more, invest more, pay off my student loans and just like really get ahead. I think one of the best things you can do is just try to be mindful of what you spend money on, because ultimately at the end of the day, you want to spend your money on things that you're going to get, personal fulfillment from. And even from a vacation standpoint, like, I've been to Vegas, a handful of times. I've traveled to places in Europe, but sometimes some of the best trips can be simple. Like sometimes it's just a beach trip with your good buddies, or, a trip to a national park out west to do some hiking. Like it doesn't always have to be like, like clubbing in Las Vegas or something like that, to enjoy yourself and have fun. One thing I've noticed particularly here in the US, as I mentioned from the Super Bowl commercials, but a lot of people really do spend a lot of money on cars. And people at the end of the day, they do this to try and impress people they'll never meet. Guys try to, do this to impress girls that probably won't like them anyway. And it's just a huge payment in their life that's sucking them from what they could really be doing in their life. Now, if you're a big car person and this brings you joy to have a nice new car, more power to you. But I think for the vast majority of people, the new car is really for status And that status usually doesn't like pay off anyway. They buy cars that they can't afford and end up having like an enormous car payment every month. And it was funny. I was talking with a close friend of mine who had asked me, he was like, man, when are you going to upgrade in car? Like, you've been driving that thing forever. And I remember telling him, I'm like, dude, I don't see the point of like going into like debt to finance a car. If you don't buy a car in cash, I mean, the interest rates these days, it's like 8%, if not like 9%. I just don't want to have a huge monthly car payment. So, I bought an older Toyota, back in 2020, back during COVID, and it's lasted me for 5 years. And I bought for cash for, I think, like $4,000. Personally, I look at a car as it gets you from A to B. And as long as it's running smoothly, like that's all that matters to me, to be honest. And then there's electronics that I think a lot of people spend a lot of money on as well. I remember a few years back, I was hanging out with a coworker. And they had asked me like what kind of phone I had. And I told them I had the iPhone 11. They're like, oh, dude, you got to upgrade. That phone's like so old. And I told him, I was like, for one, dude, like that's not that old. But two, I don't see the point of like buying a new iPhone every time a new one comes out. Like, unless you're someone who's like really into photography and you're using that newest phone for the really good camera. And I'll admit the cameras are like amazing on these newer phones. But if you're not using it for that purpose, like I just don't see the benefit of like continually spending more and more to upgrade your phone and just for a status symbol. And that's just also money that you can use for other things that just matter. I also don't have cable. If I want to watch a documentary or a movie, I'll just use Hulu or Netflix, and it's just much cheaper at the end of the day. And I also don't see the point of having cable when I won't watch like literally 99% of what's on there. I'm not really someone who's big into watching sports. Like I'll watch my favorite NFL team if my friends invite me over their place. Or I'll watch like a UFC fight at a Buffalo Wild Wings, but I feel like I would be wasting like so much money ordering cable every month. And the same goes for like an excess amount of clothes, like posters and just like random shit around your apartment. I used to just have a ton of clothes that just added up over the years that I literally like never wore. And one day, like seeing all these like piles of clothes in my closet, I just decided to sell the clothes I didn't wear anymore on Facebook Marketplace. And the rest I just like gave to Goodwill. And I found that the less you have, the less worries you also have as well. When you have like so much clutter in your place, whether it's like all this extra clothes you don't wear, or like all these posters and like just random like miscellaneous stuff around your apartment, it just creates like undue stress that just isn't necessary. Something about having piles and piles of clothes and just random shit just seems like so unnecessary. And then if you have to move, you're just like taking away like tons and tons of stuff from your apartment. Whereas if you just condense everything down to what you need and like what you absolutely really want, it just makes moving a lot easier. And it just like I said, it just reduces your stress as much as possible. I'm someone, I just don't see the point of having like a ton of posters up on my walls. Like, as you can see, this is my apartment and it's pretty minimalistic. I don't have any posters on the wall. It just feels less stressful and it's just simple. And simple is a great feeling. I have a bed, I've got a work desk, a desk to work on YouTube content, a bookshelf, a nightstand, a couch, coffee table, small dining room table, an old TV I don't use that I should probably get rid of, and that's pretty much it. And it's just amazing just to keep it simple. And even with shoes, like I only really have what is necessary, to be honest. Like I have a pair of black dress shoes, I've got 2 pairs of boots, a pair of Nikes, casual white pair of shoes, and a pair that I can use for hiking and running. I do have like, actually, ironically, I have like 3 pairs of Jordans in my closet that I used to wear a lot. I've got a white pair of Jordans and I've got like a black pair of Jordans and then I think like a blue pair or something like that. Like I said, I used to wear Jordans a lot, but that's something that I should probably try to see if I can sell. And overall, I think the benefit of living a minimalist lifestyle just allows for a more stress-free life. You know where everything is, you stay organized, and you just have less stress and anxiety overall. And I can say if I wasn't frugal and minimalistic for many years in certain areas of my life, it wouldn't have allowed me to pay off my student loans as quickly, build up my savings, build up my investments, and just have more experiences like traveling to places I've always wanted to go and getting ahead in life. And I think minimalism can be tailored to you as well. You don't necessarily have to go like super extreme and only have like 2 pairs of shoes and 3 shirts and one plate and 1 knife, 1 fork. Like you don't have to go like super extreme. never eat out, go on like super cheap dates. Like you don't have to do all that stuff, but it's figuring out like what you enjoy having in your life and what you don't value. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. Feel free to comment down below your opinion on minimalism, and feel free to subscribe. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care.